Today, in the heart of Tsanin, Limpopo, history meets the present as President Cyril Ramaphosa leads the National Women's Day commemoration at Nkawankoa Stadium. The atmosphere is electric, filled with the voices of South Africans coming together to honor a legacy that changed the course of our nation. This is not just another public holiday. It's a day rooted in courage, sacrifice, and the relentless fight for freedom. We're talking about a commemoration that marks exactly 69 years since the iconic 1956 Women's March to the Union Buildings in Pretoria. On that day, 20,000 women from all walks of life, united by a single cause, stood up against the brutal apartheid pass laws. These laws demanded that all Black South Africans carry a special pass, an identification document they had to produce on demand to prove they had permission to be in so-called white areas. For many, it was a daily reminder of segregation, oppression, and second-class citizenship. But on that day in 1956, women said, "Enough is enough." Led by fearless figures like Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph, Rahima Musa, and Sophia Williams de Bruyne, the marchers carried petitions, their footsteps echoing through the streets of Pretoria. When they arrived, they stood in complete silence for 30 minutes, a powerful act of defiance that still resonates today. And then came the rallying cry that became a part of our nation's fabric. Wathint Abafazi, Wathint Imbokodo. You strike a woman, you strike a rock. Fast forward to today, and the spirit of that march still burns brightly.
Thank you. Abshe. Nemachelu. Dumela. Khuyemore. Good morning. Lochani. Thank you so much. Program directors, the women of South Africa, and better still, the beautiful women of South Africa. As I was coming in, I was met by the Minister, Chikunga, Premier Ramatuba, and MEC Mahungu. And one of the things that struck me, and I told them that you are all looking so beautiful. But I hadn't seen beauty yet. I had to come into this hall to see all of you women looking so beautiful. And we men are not supposed to see this, but you are also so well dressed, so beautifully dressed. So it's a real pleasure for me to be here, and I extend my greetings to the ministers who are here present, the deputy ministers who are also here, the premier of our province, and the MECs who work with her, the executive mayor of the Mopani district, Her Majesty Queen Masalanabo Mujaji, traditional leaders who are also here present, community leaders and religious leaders, and of course representatives of various political parties and the residents of the Limpopo and the Mopani district, and all fellow South Africans. This is a very special day. It's a day on which we celebrate the women of our country, but it is also a day on which we remember the bravery and the courage of the 20,000 women who marched on the Union buildings where I work today, demanding the scrapping of the passes which the apartheid government had decided should be carried by the women of our country. They marched in their thousands from all over the country to make that demand. And they wrote their demands on reams of paper, which they delivered at the Union buildings. And we have symbolized that march at the Union buildings by putting two rocks. One big rock, which is like a bowl, and another rock on top, which is the grinding rock or medium. And that is where imbokodo imagery comes in. And where we say, watinta bafazi, watinta imbokodo. And each time we have a state visit, I make it a point as we go down the stairs to the amphitheater of the Union buildings to explain to those heads of states who come here what the Union building symbolizes. The Union buildings, other than being the seat of government, is also a memorial of how the women of our country stood up against a mighty government of apartheid and opposed it and marched on the Union buildings. So today we celebrate that day. Sinitsakisa swinene ku ri ni va la ankuwankuwa hi ta yimbelela, hi ta vulavula hi mintirho ya vanhu vavasati va hina la South Africa. Ha mi khensa ka hinkwaswo leswi mi swi endlaka. Hi n'wina va mhani va rixaka, hi n'wina va sesi va rixaka, hi n'wina va kokwani va rixaka. Ha mi khensa swinene, mi tsaka swinene loko ni mi vona mi ri laha hinkwenu ra munhu. Now, we the fathers, the grandfathers, and the uncles and the sons of our nation, we are also here to celebrate this day with you. We are here because we honor you. We are here as the men of our country to pay tribute to you, because we have to honor you as the women of our country. You are the fabric of our nation. You are the glue that keeps our nation together. You give birth to us. You care for us. And so today we honor you and we pay tribute to you. On this day we say, Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi. And I say, Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi, so that all the men of South Africa should know that as men we must respect the women of South Africa. We must do what Minister Chikunga was saying. We must love the women of South Africa. And I will say to men, If you don't have anybody to love, come to me, I will show you. I will direct you. Taukrela msadi. Aosa tebu freya. Ote mon naketa obonsa. Oro freya jwa. Yesterday, when a woman is empowered, everyone gets empowered. When a woman prospers, everyone prospers. When a woman rises, we all rise. I saw that yesterday. Yesterday we went to launch a water facility in Vereeniging. We were led there by the Minister of Water and Sanitation. We were launching a facility that will deliver 600 million liters of water a day to Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Northwest and Free State. Now, as they were taking me through this whole facility, lo and behold, the people who were showing me everything, how it works, the machinery, how they draw water from Lesotho, from the Val d'Air, and how they wash and clean the water, and how they process the chemicals and everything. At every stage of that whole process, it was women who were leading the process. They are the ones who were telling me that, Mr. President, I designed this whole facility of 5 billion rand. Each one was saying, I am an engineer, I'm a civil engineer, I'm a chemical engineer, I'm a water engineer, I'm a biologist, and. So women yesterday were demonstrating to me that they are capable, they are able to do things, they are even able to manage complex processes. And when I left, I had this sense that indeed, this country is doing a lot to empower the women of our country. That's why I say, when you empower a woman, you empower everyone. Lehunu, re batlo bolela ka tseo tse mmuso wa rena o di diang go etsetsa gore bomme ba setšhaba se sa South Africa ba tswelle pele. Re batlo bolela ka mathata a ba kopanang le ona ha ba ntse ba tswella pele le maphelo a bona. Mamotla re batlo bolela ka tseo tse ba tshwenyang go etsetsa gore re kgone ho di lokisa. But at the same time, yes, we pay tribute to all the imbokoto of our country in terms of what they do. Yes, men were already subjected to humiliation for carrying passes, but the women of our country were subjected to the triple oppression. They were oppressed because they were women. And let it be clear, all women were oppressed, both black women and white women and colored women and Indian women. When we talk about the empowerment of the women of our country, we are also talking about all the women of our country. White women, even though they were part of the privileged class, they too were not allowed to get into high positions They were not allowed to thrive and demonstrate the ability of women. So the process that we are involved in of empowering women, it is a wholesome process. We want to empower all the women of South Africa. And as we empower them, we will embark on programs, we will embark on initiatives that will enable the women of South Africa to rise. And it is on a day like this, when we celebrate the women of our country, we celebrate all. But it is also a day on which we make a clarion call to accelerate the role of women in the economy and to empower them, as well as to tackle complex barriers such as poverty, inequality, and unemployment that continue to hinder their development. Yes, as the Premier was saying, till today, yes, the color of poverty is still seen in the face of a black woman. And this country remains committed to making sure that we address the challenges that our women continue to face. The theme of this year's Women's Month is building resilient economies for all. But I will say it must be about building resilient economies to empower the women of South Africa. That's what it should be about. Now, one of the overriding and overarching purpose of having these types of commemorations is not only to remember what happened when the 20,000 women marched on the Union buildings, is to actually ensure that during this month of August, we keep on raising the flag about the important role that women should play to participate in everything that affects their lives and the lives of all of us in South Africa. Starting with leadership, we need to make sure that the women of our country do participate in the leadership of various sectors in the country, be it, yes, in the cabinet, yes, in parliament, yes, in the municipality, in companies, in every aspect of South African life. We must make sure that there is participation by women. Now, we are making sure that this happens as a cabinet of the Republic. When ministers come forward, when they want to appoint committees, and we've got many committees of state-owned enterprises, of various commissions, even today with the NYDA, when they come forward, they bring names. The question that is always asked, and I always ask, do you have 50% women representation or not? And when it is not there, they are turned back. We tell them that we cannot continue having a situation where we have committees, where we have structures, and the women of our country are not represented. So it has now become a law. It has now become a protocol and a practice that any structure that we put together must have 50% or more representation by women, and ideally more, because women, I must say, even talking about against my own tribe of women, of men, that I have found that women always make a much more meaningful participation and input than men. Sorry, men, but women are a shade cleverer than the men. And so therefore, that is why we insist that every structure that we put together must ensure that women are brought into leadership positions. We also want to focus on advancing women's access to decent work, to entrepreneurship, to financial inclusion, to every aspect that will promote their economic well-being. Ritoda uri batho ba bafumakadzi ba songo siwa murahu hu tshi ḓiwa kha zwithu zwa mishumo, hu tshi ḓiwa kha zwithu zwa ikonomi, ba dzhenisiwe ba kone u vhona uri na vhone ba kone u bvelela phanḓa. Now, as government, we have accelerated the process of making sure that, yes, at the economic level, the women of our country are indeed empowered. Now, these developments indicate that South Africa's resolute drive towards establishing gender parity is strong. We have consistently grown the number of women taking key positions in leadership roles. The heroic march of the women of 1956 in many ways paved the way to ensure that the women of our country have equal rights. Their courageous actions culminated in the creation of a non-sexist, non-racial state that was cemented through our Constitution. And it was quite pleasing to hear the young girls from the school, the agricultural school, Merensky Agricultural School, reciting the preamble of our Constitution. And this is pleasing because these young girls grow up knowing our Constitution. But not only knowing the Constitution, knowing that the Constitution is an instrument that they can use to enforce their own rights. There is today greater inclusion of women in various sectors of our life, in the economy, and also in key leadership positions. There is progress, but this progress, fellow South Africans, is not enough. We cannot rest until we have achieved gender equality throughout society. Today, the women of our country continue to reap the benefits of the changes that were ushered in through the brave actions of the women of 1956. But there is still a lot that we need to do. And over the years, the government has done a lot to accelerate access to basic education. The Employment Equity Act has also been another tool that we have used. And this is where it becomes funny for me that there are those in our society who oppose the Employment Equity Act, who also impose empowerment instruments that we've put together, and they least realize that all those instruments are meant to lift all those who were oppressed by the previous system, including those white people who the previous system gave privileges to. It did not give all the privileges because people who are disabled, who happen to be white, were not empowered. People who are women who happen to be white were not empowered. And it is through these acts, employment equity and various other acts, that we are seeking to raise everyone to the fore who were disadvantaged in the past. And the women of our country are the ones who need to be lifted up more because they have borne the brunt of the oppression of the past. The empowerment of women will contribute to sustainable development. It will contribute to inclusive growth and the cultivation of resilient economies. About 40% of preferential procurement in the public sector is meant to go in the direction of empowering women-owned businesses. We declared this, and we want to make sure that indeed it does happen. Government wa hina a xava swilo hi lava ku vona ku ri 40% ya swona swi ta nghena mavokweni a vanhu va hina va mhani va hina va sesi va hina i ti-business ta vona. We want to make sure that women-owned small medium enterprises are supported through the National Empowerment Fund, the Small Enterprise Finance Agency, and various other finance agencies, yes, including the newly formed 100 billion rand National Empowerment Fund that we decided on just past this budget and past the State of the Nation. Our government must continue to work towards enhancing gender equality and empowerment. We are committed to expanding economic opportunities for women through skills training, entrepreneurial support, access to funding, as well as the sectoral partnership to place women in key sectors of the economy. We also want to continue our work to increase the participation of women in key sectors such as science, technology, engineering, maths, as well as the green economy and industrial sectors. We do not want to see our women playing menial roles. We do not want the women of our country continuing to play roles of being cleaners, of being house servants. We want the women of our country to rise, to play key and pivotal roles in the economy of our country. There must be scientists, there must be engineers, there must be accountants, they must be doctors and the best that this country can produce. We also want to increase women's role in digital finance, which includes digital banking and access to finance and investments. Women-led enterprises are being supported through policies, mentorships, and funding. Now, through capacity building initiatives, we aim to increase the participation of women, yes, in politics, in business, and in society. In Greater Tzaneen, women make up a significant portion of the population and continue to play critical roles in education, health, agriculture, and the informal economy. And yet, much like many other parts of the country, women continue to battle unacceptable levels of gender-based violence, high unemployment, teenage pregnancies, limited access to economic opportunities, as well as patriarchal social structures that are barriers to their full empowerment. women continue to struggle under gender-based violence. This issue of gender-based violence has become a very painful issue to many of us, because rather than see gender-based violence going down, we continue to see incidents of gender-based violence. But what is more troubling is how the men of our country continue to abuse women, not only by killing them, by raping them and brutally killing them, but it gets worse when it actually involves the rape of children as young as a few months, children as young as 2 years, and the impregnation of young girls, as it was being said earlier here by Minister Chikunga. That is painful. And that is why we say we must all rise against gender-based violence. We must all rise, men and women, and make sure that we bring the levels of gender-based violence down. In many ways, many women continue to struggle to go through life. Yes, they struggle to have access to basic services, especially water. Many women in our country rely on boreholes, but they are often non-functional due to theft, lack of maintenance, and lack of proper infrastructure installation. We cannot and will not leave anyone behind, including the women of this area here. There are therefore serious questions that need to be answered when it comes to service delivery that negatively affect the lives of women. We therefore need to do as much as we possibly can to address all these challenges that the women of our country are experiencing. At government level, we are committed to make sure that we uplift the lives of the women of our country. At society level, men and women must work together and put the interests of women in the front to make sure that we address the interests of women so that we lift them up. And I therefore call on all in society, in companies, in organizations, in sports organizations, in religious bodies, in every endeavor of South African life, that we must focus on uplifting the women of South Africa, because when you uplift a woman, you are essentially uplifting the whole nation. Women always make sure that when they are empowered, they ensure that they empower their families. They are the ones who lift the livelihoods of their families, and by so doing, also lift the life of the nation. And we therefore say to the men of South Africa, we want August month to be a month on which we focus on the best that we can do for the women of South Africa. We want the men of South Africa to pull out all stops and do everything that will lead to the empowerment of women. Even if it just takes saying to the women around you, whether they are your mothers, your grandmothers, your wives, your girlfriends, and even your daughters, just to say, you know what, I love you so much. And that's all you need to say. But you also need to do much more and demonstrate your support and your love for the women of South Africa. The women of South Africa have gone through a lot, possibly more than many other women in the world, because they were oppressed, because they were women, they were black, and they were working class. So therefore, we need to do much more to uplift them. So let us strive to be a society that cares for that section of our population that enhances our lives. It is the women of South Africa that enhance our lives, that make our life better. So let us ensure that we strive in everything we do to enhance that. I do want this to sink in the minds of men, to sink so that men in our country know that real men do not abuse women. A real man does not abuse a woman. Monna o feletse ha tsamai a bula zip ya gage a bulela bao ba sa batleng. Monna wa nnete ha tsamai a betha mosadi. Monna wa nnete ha reipi mosadi. Monna wa nnete a bolae mosadi. So we want the men of our country, of South Africa, to respect our women, to support our women, to uplift our women, to ensure that the women of South Africa succeed. Don't compete with women. Help them to succeed and to prosper. Then if you do all that as a man, you will be a real man. Then you will be recognized for yes, umonna kannete. And in turn, the women of our country will give you the necessary respect and love. Kabani seke se tseba le se ne tseba ka kahle kahle e kore ba basadi ba na re rantso ba rantsa a ke bolela ka Sepedi bomme ba na le lerato and ha ba o rata why. So how le monna o ka re ba bang ba tshela nna ke tseba gore ha ba sadi ba o rata ha o le alright mo bona ba tla o rata why but ha o tsamaya so aowa le a fela lerato. So I want us to make it a tradition as the men of South Africa, on August month and every month, let us do everything that we can to make sure that we uplift the women of our country. But also as government, we continue to look at every program to see the extent to which it uplifts women. And I want to say, where we fail, we want the women of our country to rise and come to us and say, you are failing us. You are not doing what we expect you to do to uplift us and to make sure that we have a better life. I want to conclude by saying we are committed. Rodi misera ori. Zote zine zanganakisa butshilo abafumakadzi bafano Afrika dzonga rizite urizi yeta mta ilava kuri hinkwaswo leswi nga swi endlaka ku ri vutomi bya vanhu va hina va vamhani buya amahlweni kahle re batla gore bomme le basetsana le bokoko ba rena ba phele botse mo South Africa re etse gore maphelo a bona a tswelle pele ka tsela e tshwanetseng. Ke a le leboga. You've come out in your numbers, and I want to appreciate that. This is the best Women's Day celebration we have had in many years. And you know, for 3 reasons. This is the best for 3 reasons. Well, 4 reasons. Because it's being held in Limpopo. Limpopo is right up there. The second reason is that we've got young women who are at school here with us, and I want to applaud them. You have made our Women's Day excellent. The third reason is that today I have more ministers and deputy ministers. I keep telling them that they must come to national events. I want to applaud the ministers and deputy ministers who are here, that they have come. And the fourth reason, and there's a fifth reason, the fourth reason, which makes me really happy as your president, is that I am seeing the diverse nature of our population. Quite often when we hold events, it's only just black faces. Mamo tarine bakhoa. What? Balungu bakona nyamungu. Abakhensa gore bafikile. South Africa leyi ya hina hinkwenu. Nabona cancer gore bakona. I am happy that we've got some of our white compatriots amongst us today. And I want this to keep growing and growing. National events must not only be for black South Africans, it must be for all of us. The fifth reason why this is the best Women's Day is that all of you women, you are so beautiful. Thank you very much.
The 2025 theme, Building Resilient Economies for All, reflects a new battlefield, economic empowerment. The fight is no longer just about tearing down unjust laws, but about ensuring women have the tools, opportunities, and resources to thrive in a modern economy. Because the truth is, while political freedom was won in 1994, economic freedom remains a work in progress. At Nkowankowa Stadium, President Ramaphosa is not only paying tribute to those 20,000 heroines, but also speaking to the challenges and opportunities women face today. He's expected to emphasize how a resilient economy depends on women's full participation, from corporate boardrooms to local farming cooperatives, from tech innovation to grassroots entrepreneurship. The message is clear. South Africa cannot grow if half of its population is left behind. The setting itself is symbolic. Limpopo, with its deep cultural roots and history of resilience, is a place where many women are the backbone of their families and communities. Yet, they often face the harshest economic challenges. This year's celebration is not just about speeches. It's a call to action to break down the barriers that keep women from accessing capital, education, and equal job opportunities. What makes today so powerful is that it's a reminder of continuity. The 1956 marchers fought for the right to move freely in their own country. Today's fight is for the right to move freely in the economy, to be seen and treated as equals in every sector. It's about ensuring that young girls growing up in Tsenin, Johannesburg, Cape Town, or any corner of South Africa know that their dreams are valid, achievable, and essential for the country's future. So as the sun shines over Nkowankowa Stadium and the President's voice carries over the crowd, this commemoration becomes more than an event. It's a bridge between the past and the future, a reminder that the spirit of 1956 is alive, evolving, and still ready to take on whatever challenges come next. And just like those women 69 years ago, South African women today are proving that when they stand together, they truly are rocks that cannot be broken.